back to my channel. Welcome back to Megan's View, and it feels so good to be officially back in this setting. As you guys can see, I'm in a different background, different views, as you can see, because I did move, hence the separation from YouTube for a quick break. Just a lot was going on. Working full-time, moving definitely took a really big toll and strain on me, and on top of that, being in a new environment and getting acclimating and getting set into a routine. Once my routine shakes up, changes drastically or anything like that, it's hard for me to get back on a new routine or get back on a routine. So I'm working on it, getting back into it. I was gonna make a separate video about that, but nah, that's just the sum of it all. So anyway, I'm back better than ever. I did release a video about like some weeks ago. Go check that last video out as always. And yeah, so that was a different format. I was on Zoom with my friend Morgan, and now I'm back sitting here in front of my camera, loving my new background actually, because you get to see like my decor here with the prints that my friend Hillary got me. My bookcase can finally be shown in its ultimate glory, and as you can see, I actually upgraded to a 5-story bookshelf. I actually need more room now because it's over capacity. So yeah, but either way, let's just get started into this week's video. So as you can see by the title, I want to talk about movies, and these movies I want to talk about were movies that came out early 2000s, or at least the movies I'm talking about, but this usually applies to a whole bunch of movies that I just couldn't think about. Movies that I feel like deserve a second chance and a second look at, you know? Second chance as in like, these movies at their time they came out in the 2000s, the few movies I'm going to talk about were early 2000s, like 2004, 2005, and they received such bad reviews and have been known to be like, oh, they suck. So basically it's unpopular opinions in my book, I should say, but like I said, they deserve a second chance because they received such bad reviews, whether it was based off of storyline or like whatever it was, that people just didn't like. Graphics, of course, they weren't at their best because it was early 2000s. Like some movies, you know, just movies that we have them now, you know, there's some movies out here now that graphics are horrible, but of course we have the more technology, advanced technology to make the graphics and all that kind of stuff pop and look realistic more wise. So I know that was some of the past critiques, storylines, and how they didn't match up to what people were expecting from the story, especially the movies I'm talking about are based off of comics, as always, you know, staying on brand here. And I truly believe that they deserve second chances and didn't really deserve the critiques and the hate they got back then, and some to this day right now. So I'm just gonna list up a few movies that I feel like deserve a better look at, and honestly didn't really deserve all the hate they got. So let me just jump right into my little short list here, just to get you feeling on my level, what I'm feeling like, on like a taste of what I'm talking about basically. First movie I want to start with is Elektra, the Marvel movie Elektra that came out in 2005, I believe, starring Jennifer Garner, and it was a spin-off off of the Daredevil movie that came out, I believe, the year prior, so probably 2004, possibly, with Ben Affleck. I wasn't a fan of the Daredevil back then, so I feel like that was its own fault. But also I feel like people didn't really hate on it that much because of whatever, and it did well that they created Elektra, a spin-off series, or like a continuation of Daredevil or whatever. And honestly, Elektra was one of my favorite movies growing up. I loved it. Wasn't even a Marvel fan, like a comic book fan at all back then, and I still love the movie, love the story and everything like that. And I rewatched it recently. I actually just watched it this weekend here right now, and I can't understand why it has like what, an 11% rating on what, Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, and other like IMDb and the other top 3 things that they be rating movies on. I don't understand the hate against, and I don't think it should be rated so poorly. Honestly, I really don't believe it should be rated so poorly. And the storyline was good. There were some missing points where I feel like they could have, you know, done some things better, but obviously a lot of things can always have room for improvement. But to get that low of a rating, I don't believe so. And you know, Elektra her whole story, I definitely do see the difference between, especially they revived her now new Daredevil series. Well, in new terms, in recent terms, they have a Daredevil series that was on Netflix for like 3 seasons, and they rebranded and reintroduced Daredevil and Elektra. And obviously her story from what it was in the movie is not the same as how it is now. Obviously there's different variations, we all know this now, but even with that variation they told, I don't think it deserved the hate it got. So I recommend that's the first movie to go look at, and honestly reevaluate. If you hated it at first, go reevaluate and honestly be honest, it didn't deserve that much hate. Okay, that's movie number 1. Second movie is Catwoman starring Halle Berry. The thing with Catwoman is, once again, watched when I was younger, didn't know it was affiliated with DC, that type of thing. Loved Halle Berry from a very young age, so like, she was been one of my favorite actresses, so I actually loved her because of star power, and like loving like, okay, this whole origin of her becoming this Catwoman and stuff like that. I would say, looking back at it now and thinking about it, the premise about like, the villain and what she was working against could have been a bit more threatening and opposing, I would say. But besides that, you still get the gist. And my eyes at that age, the graphics and the stunts and everything was looking amazing. Obviously looking at it now, it gives off early 2000s their look back then for graphics and stuff like that. So it wasn't anything off brand or like terrible that was happening back in the early 2000s. So I think that we have to be thinking in that space, in that aspect, that we gotta give them some grace right there. It wasn't the same as how we are conditioned to seeing now. So in that case, man, it's still, honestly, still do believe that it was okay. It wasn't horrible. It's still, I will still sit here and watch it. Actually, Benjamin Bratt was also, I believe that's his name, was her love interest. He was looking how he was looking back then, and I liked the movie. I think the storyline was still good, and yet still another movie that didn't deserve the hate it got. I feel like we rag on it for unnecessary reasons, So, yeah. And the last movie I want to bring to attention is the Fantastic Four movie that came out in 2005. Once again, didn't know it was like a Marvel associated thing. Didn't know nothing about them. And that may be a reason, since it's a common theme, that I didn't know the comic origins, didn't read the books, nothing like that, to know that, hey, the storytelling and the origins of how you're portraying in the movies is not a great reflection of what's in the books at all, anything like that. So that may be one reason why, but yet still, even me knowing now and knowing more information I know now and still watching those movies, I don't think it's that terrible to even recognize as being a horrible adaptation. Horrible is very strong, because it wasn't inaccurate. It wasn't like okay, listen, Fantastic Four was a great movie. Once again, one of my favorite movies to watch when I was younger. Chris Evans as the Flaming Torch, the Human Torch, I should say, excuse me. Forever look at him as Captain America, but still left it there. But yet still, like I was saying, is the story, the characters. I think even when I think about the Fantastic Four, I think of the cast. Jessica Alba, the guy who played Reed Richards, don't know his real name, don't know the real name of the actor who played I think The Thing was what he's called. And honestly, yet still, he was in Gotham as well too, so I should know his name, but still don't. And of course, Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. And was that his last name? I don't want to say what I'm thinking about, but that was his last name. Yeah, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, because they were brother and sister. And honestly, if you want to talk about horrible adaptations of the Fantastic Four, look at the one that came out in 2010s, in 2014, I believe, with Michael B. Jordan. That one guy who gave COVID on the set of the remake of The Godfather, and what's that other girl's name? Kate Mara. And yeah, that was horrible. That was horrible. But when you think of the two variations, at least the first one that came out in the early 2000s got two parts. The first one and the second one, which was the Silver Surfer. So when you look back at it, you get to see where they were going with it, because they introduced the Silver Surfer and Galactus, I believe, at that time too. But I'm not talking about the second movie, because the second movie failed to comparison in the first movie. But the first movie still introduced us to a great origin of the Fantastic Four. I don't think it was that horrible, and honestly, it still wasn't that horrible. It got a second movie. So I think when we talk about these movies, we have to realize they came out at a certain time period. And of course, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, all like, yeah, some things were corny, some things had the early 2000s touch to it. But when you think about it, like, it wasn't that bad for it to get low ratings, especially Elektra. Elektra got me hot, okay? Because Daredevil sucked compared to Elektra. Let's get that straight. And I was doing even more research of how the ratings came about and stuff like that. And I understand a lot of other things can affect how well the movie did and stuff like that, especially with Elektra. But yet still, I feel like when we're in these conversation spaces, when we're having these conversations, let's be, more aware of why the movies looked like they did and how they were placed out in the story they were telling and the plot and stuff like that. Because honestly, with the movies, at least I named, I don't see no problem with the casting and stuff. Well, maybe a little bit, especially with Elektra. But yet still, let's just have a more objectified conversation. Just rewatch them. Let me know down below in the comments when you rewatched it, or if you're going to, or if you're not. And let's just have an open conversation. And also let me know any movies you feel like should get a second chance. Let's get a second chance in these movies so we can have a conversation, so we could really change the ratings. I feel like we could start a movement, Let's do that. But that's gonna wrap it up for me this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been so good to sit down and film. This video may be a day late. I like to upload on Sundays, as you guys can tell by past videos. But like I said, I'm getting back on my routine, and it may still come out on a Sunday, and it may just come out on a Monday. We don't know. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell button up top as well too, or is it down below? Wherever you're watching, just make sure you hit those buttons, hit that like button as well too, and like I said, comment down below. Let's have an open conversation. Let's talk. All right, so good to be back, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.